Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Command Point. My name's Ryan. Today I'm here with Shane,
Hello, hello.
and today we are going to be taking a look at every single faction and kill team, and we're going to be throwing them into a tier list. Lots has changed recently. Well, soon to change recently once, these Night Lords and Mandrake kill teams finally get their way out into the wild coming this Saturday at time of recording. So yeah, let's just go ahead and get right into it here, Shane.
Yeah. So Ryan, so I guess first and foremost, couple clarifications for the tier list, because
Uh-oh.
these questions get asked all the time. So we rank these teams by how good they can be, not how easy they are to play. So there's going to be teams that are maybe harder to play that are going to be in like S tier.
Yep.
And there's going to be teams that are really hard to play that are in D tier. How hard they are to play has no bearing on how good they are truly when they're like piloted well. So that's not something we're going to factor in. In addition to that, we're pretty much not going to rank Compendium. Sorry, guys. Maybe we'll do like a shout out at the end for a couple Compendium teams, but there's too many teams as is. We do not want to make you guys sit through Compendium because we rank these teams live. We don't do the tier list in advance and then show you guys our tiers. That's how some other people do it. We are going to shoot from the hip, Ryan, right?
Yeah. We'll do it
And
live.
yeah,
Not really, but
yeah. And I don't
knee-jerk
think,
hot takes is the reason people watch these tier lists. So that's what you're
yes.
gonna
Yeah.
get here.
And most importantly, we are going to be ranking the teams from Kill Team Nightmare because that's exciting and fun.
Yes.
And we're in the hot take era.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if you haven't already watched our videos reviewing the rules for both of those teams, go ahead and check those out. Um, Shane and I love both of these teams, I
Oh,
think,
yeah,
at this
such a
point.
huge fan.
I mean, I kind of want to start off just by ranking them right now, but I want to save them a little bit. I want to make
Let's
you
save them
guys
for like
watch for
near
a
the end.
little bit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
let's do it later. But where
Yeah.
do we want to start?
Let's go ahead and start with, let's talk about last year's fashion. Or last
Last
week's
year.
fashion, last month, last Kill Team season's
Last
fashion.
12 months
Yeah,
fashion.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, let's talk about the Orc Commandos.
All right. Well, so I am of the opinion that the nerfs were it's like the biggest set of nerfs they've gotten yet, but I still think that at its core, Commandos are probably S tier still. Um,
Really?
yeah, I think there's going to take some getting used to with the changes. For starters, I think I'm already hearing a lot of Commando players saying that they're going to start dropping the Breacher Boy in a lot of matchups just for a regular boy because with the equipment change to make their Choppas 3 attacks, the Choppa equipment, to get their melee threats on the board, they're now going to be just pivoting to dropping certain operatives for boys who have 4 attack Choppas. And on a couple guys, I think we're going to, like, the models that really want to have 4 attacks and melee that don't. They're still sledgehammers, which were before like not worth taking.
Yeah.
And now, because they're 3 equipment points instead of 2, now you can take a sledgehammer for 3 on like 2 guys and have dynamite still. And then you have 2 guys who have 4 attacks and melee still that otherwise would just have fists. They're definitely weaker than they were before. I wouldn't say they're the best team in the game anymore. To tell you the truth, it's hard to say off the top of my head what the best team in the game is now, but I still think Commandos are S tier. They have a just a scratch. Even the nerfed version is still very, very strong.
Yeah.
They have 11 activations, which is pretty crazy. I don't know. They just have a lot of tools in the toolbox.
Mm-hmm. And then you know what, Shane? Before I let you pick one, I actually want to stay in the Octarius box here and talk
Ooh.
about the Vet Guard,
Yeah,
my
also
beloved.
yeah, you played them at Adepticon, right? And
Yep,
now they're nerfed. So
yep.
it's kind of funny, like
Now
people brought this up.
hang on. I'm not saying that I'm the reason why this team got nerfed. Like literally the
Okay.
day after Adepticon, okay?
Of
I'm
course, of
not
course.
claiming that.
That would be. I think you could maybe more so blame
Leander.
well, Leander first of all, who plays higher, but every Vetguard player in the past 3 years that has won a tournament with his team, of
Yep.
which there are many.
Yes.
And it's funny too how like Commandos have been so oppressive for so long, and Vetguard, like Commandos have gone nerf after nerf, and Vetguard never get nerfed, and then Vetguard finally get nerfed, and they get nerfed way harder than
Yeah.
Commandos.
Yeah.
So I mean, how significant does it feel to you?
Like to me, it's like I want to say just because you still have so many bodies that I can still see them being like low A,
Mhm.
low A. I'm not. I have them parked in high B right now, but I don't feel comfortable setting them down there just yet.
I like B. I think
Yeah.
that they're so like I think they're still good, probably. It's definitely a lot weirder. Um, they definitely to me they're closer. I don't think they're good or bad, really. I think they're closer to bad than good, but I don't think they're bad. So maybe B tier's right.
Okay.
They just have like the demo is still good. Um, they still have a lot of threats and a ton of bodies. They play like the mission very very well.
Yeah.
In-Death Atonement's awesome still. Um, they're just like a good team. They're a little less unfair, and I think B tier feels right for them.
All right.
All right, I'll pick a team
Yeah.
now. God, it's like my eyes trying to navigate through all these compendium teams. Let's go ahead and pick a. I want to talk about a team that I've had a lot of thoughts on lately, and that is Hand of the Archon.
Okay.
So, Ryan, you know that I picked up Hand of the Archon for a little tiny bit before Adepticon because I was thinking about running them.
Yeah.
Um, and I thought I had a lot of theory about like maybe this team is pretty good, maybe they're strong. And in my time playing them, I don't know if I've ever done such a harsh 180 on a team. um, I like you might push back on this a little bit, but I
I
think
don't
Hand of the
know.
Archon.
I might be in
I
agreement with you, but I'll let you speak here.
I think they're one of the worst. When played at the top level, I think they're one of the worst bespoke teams. And I think that they are kind of like Void Dancers were, where they're like a very pub stompy team. And I think at low levels and mid tables, they feel powerful still because they snowball and a lot of their power comes from like exploiting your opponent's mistakes, kind of. Um, but their action economy is so limited. It's so poor. I really just have a lot of issues piloting this team, and I know some people still find decent success with them. Like I know Brett placed 10th at LVO with them. Um, so clearly there's something there, but I think they suffer so much on Into the Dark. I think they suffer so much on loot that it's hard for me to put this team into B tier even.
Really?
I
Okay.
actually, and kind of semi spoiler for later, I think that Hand of the Archon is the worst Eldar team right now. Um, I think they're really kind of bad at top level play, and it feels like limiting to play them against other good players. I
I
mean, we can.
I agree
What do
with
you think?
you in that I too think they are pretty bad when it comes to top level play. Just because of the faction itself.
Yeah.
Overall, I would say that they're not like C tier. Like
Oh,
I would put them B. You know,
I to me, to
if
me,
we're going to a tournament, where would I expect? Say we're playing in like a 32-person tournament. Where would I expect Hand of the Archon to wind up? Say there's like two Hand of the Archon players. I would say like probably somewhere between like 10th and 16th place.
maybe, but that's only because they'll stomp bottom tables.
Yeah, no, that's exactly what I'm saying.
But remember, we're only trying to rank them at the top level. So
Yeah,
the
if we're
better
ranking them at
question
the
is,
top
if
level,
you
then
if you take Hand of the Archon to Worlds, I expect Hand of the Archon to be in the bottom 5% of teams. I would
yeah,
put them
that's fair.
I view them closer to D than I do to B, but we can go C for now.
I mean, like if that's where we're looking at, if we're taking these teams to Worlds or these teams are appearing at Worlds, and where are we expecting them to place? Just
You know,
purely based off faction alone, I would say I would agree with you at D.
all right. I was gonna say out of respect for Brett at Six-Sided Legion, we could put him in C, but D D feels right to me. I really, and it's I, like a month ago I thought they were good, and I played them, and I walked away from it thinking this is a really, really difficult team, like a very uphill team
Mm-hmm.
to play as when you're piloting against good players.
My main gripe with them is that if you're not killing stuff, your whole army-wide ability is nothing.
Yeah.
And you're just playing on hard mode.
And it's
And
like,
now with like a team like Nemesis Claw that's
mhm.
like soon to be like out and showing up at tournaments and stuff, elites are back. I think this team just bounces off them.
And like loot especially is just horrible. Like you're playing a team that so like they have no way innately to double kill unless your opponent goes in blast range for your shredder plasma grenade, or they let you double charge with the Crimson Duelist. That's the only way you can get double kills with this team. And that's just your opponent messing up. And play that on loot where like you're losing on primary and you're out activated. You can't double kill if your opponent's positioning correctly, and you can't even kill and score a point in the same activation.
Yeah.
And you're out activated. Like their action economy is so horrible. I think it's the worst action economy of any bespoke team, to be honest. Like you have to kill something and then not use the pain token to dash away, which means you have to kill something and be in a spot where you're like not in danger so you can keep the pain token, which I don't know, that seems tough to me because you
Yeah.
almost always have to use your pain tokens to dash to safety. So I don't know, I really really don't like this team.
Yeah.
They're fun to play, I like playing as them, but I don't like them
Yeah.
competitively.
Um Sticking with uh the Eldari here. Let's go ahead now and talk about Void Dancers. Void Dancers, they recently just got nerfed. They no longer fly.
Yeah. Oh man, the nerf was way too much. Like
Really? You think it was too much?
I do
I got a
like I
game
think
in with them after the nerf, and it was on open, like Octarius terrain. I really did not feel, that limited by not being able to fly anymore. Like, I'm
yeah,
still a
it's
3 APL team, so it's like,
and that is true. Like they still have decent action economy, they can get double kills. Um it's just like I don't know. It felt like too much for a team that never wins anything. You know, they never win
true.
tournaments.
Yeah.
They're just like in that hand of the Archon like pub stomp territory.
Hmm.
Um, like I think at least they should drop for free or traverse for free. Like it's one thing to make them climb, but like man, they're actually worse than climbing ropes. Like a Votan, like a Hearthkyn Salvager model with a climbing rope is when they're like climbing is like faster than a Void Dancer now. How crazy is that?
Yeah,
Because they
that's
can climb for 2 and drop for 0. Like, and the Void Dancer has to drop for 2 still.
yeah, that's because of the way that flip belt is worded, right? Like most
Yes.
operatives in the game can drop for free.
Yeah. I mean,
So do you think it's just like they just have to like not FAQ that, but they just have to like change the wording on the flip belt rule?
yeah, I think that they need to like wind it back a little because I think they went way too hard nerfing this team.
Yeah, I don't think the
Um,
making them have to pay movement for drops was intentional,
maybe not.
because that's like
I wouldn't be
ridiculous.
surprised. And like, I don't know. Maybe you could keep the flip belt as it is, but I think they should, if they want to do that, I think it would be fair to undo some of the many, many nerfs they've gotten in the past. Like the nerf to like Domino Field, for instance, or some of the Sadath nerfs. Um, I think we can put them in C tier now, which
Okay.
is like what a fall from grace. I don't think I'd put them in D tier because I think that like at the top level, I don't know, they already were pretty much incapable of winning a tournament. Maybe they're D tier, but I don't know. Like, I don't expect anybody to take Void Dancers to Worlds. I didn't expect it before.
Yeah.
And now they're like, one of their identities has basically been taken away. So,
Mm-hmm.
let's keep them at C then.
Okay.
Okay,
So you go
next
ahead and
up.
pick one, yeah.
Yeah, let's go to Hunter Clade.
All right.
So I think Hunter Clade is like, so not the last data slate, but the one before they got buffed. And I think like with all the top teams getting nerfed, Vecard in particular, I think Hunter Clade is like kind of on the rise a little bit.
Dude, I've been down this road before.
Yeah, I know it always feels like that. But this time, since
I'm not
we've been
buying
there,
what you're selling, dude.
since we've been there though, they have gotten buffed, and everything almost that like resembles a bad matchup has gotten nerfed, other than like Gellerpox. Gellerpox is a pretty bad matchup.
Yeah.
Um, I feel like they're gonna end up looking like a low A tier team. Like I think the Vecguard matchup before was like horrible for them, and I think now it's actually winnable. Because before the spotter would just like he could just look any direction and see a
Yeah.
Sicarian because they're so big,
Yeah,
and then you
true.
lose a Sicarian every turn. Like they have such a good toolbox. They can go to 11 activations, which is a big deal. Um, all they're really missing is blast, and like personally, I think Ruststalker's double fighting almost kind of makes up for not having blast because like it's really easy to get a double charge off with a Ruststalker. I know we were saying with the Crimson Duelist for Hand of the Archon, like if your opponent lets you double charge, that's kind of on them. But that's like a 28, 25 mil, I can't even remember, base. A Ruststalker, a 40 mil Ruststalker getting a double charge off is almost, I mean, it's almost inevitable if you're playing against a horde.
Yeah.
And so they have ways to like clear the board out, and they hit super hard. They're really flexible. They have a lot of dice reliability. They can ignore obscuring. They have a lot of bodies. Some of their bodies are like decently durable. They can do free mission actions. They're fast when they need to be. Like I don't really know what more I need from Hunter Clay to put them in A tier personally. I I don't know. I think they're really good, and I think all the teams above them just got hit for the most part. I already thought they had one of the better matchups in the Commandos, and now after the nerfs, they might like beat Commandos now straight up. So something to be said there.
Yeah, I mean,
I like them.
it sounds like they check all the boxes for the criteria, for what you use to measure good teams in this game. So
Yeah, I really like it. Like they can create asymmetric threats. They have a lot of activations. Their model retention isn't amazing, but the Sicarians, some teams are going to struggle to remove Sicarians. So, hey, I mean that's 2.5 out of 3 for me of the things I look for. So,
yeah,
I like that a lot.
yeah. I'm gonna choose this one not because I really know anything about it, but just because I'm interested in what you're gonna say about it. Uh, the oh my gosh, the Thousand Suns team, Warp
Warp
Coven,
Coven.
recent, yeah, because it's like you've never done anything. Recently got a ton of buffs.
Mm-hmm.
What is your opinion of them now after the buffs?
God, so they've been buffed like 45 times in a row.
Yeah.
Um, and I think this is the first buff where I finally feel like, hey, I think this might be like a real team now.
Okay.
I mean, this is maybe one of the toughest teams to evaluate right now. Um, I think so before they were like D tier, I think they've shot up at least to like high B tier. I don't know if I would put them in, they're like a low A, high B tier, I think, but their like ability to like solve problems and answer questions in the meta feels a lot better now. So like their spells lingering, for instance. Like that opens up so much play for Warp Coven. Like you can if your opponent has like comms buffed like a plasma gun, Like they have a power that beforehand basically never got used, where well your sorcerer who has that power, I think it's in the Destiny discipline, don't quote me on that, can look at that guy and say you don't get positive APL modifiers. And before that would last till the end of the turn. But now it lasts till the next time you activate that sorcerer. So that's like a whole giant time period where that Meltagun can't get +1 APL. So like you do that to like the demo specialist on Vet Guard or something. How's he ever getting in? How's he ever gonna run up and blow your team up? I think that they crush elite teams, with the maybe exception of Nemesis Claw, but we can talk about that later. I've always thought the Warp Coven had a really good matchup into Legionaries if played properly. The Zangors are a little bit beefier now. The 9 wound breakpoint I think is a really big deal. And I think if I had to guess, I think we're going to see more success from Warp Coven players running a little more Zangor heavy than Rubric heavy, but it's still early days. Who knows what people are going to cook up? I've personally played against them one time since the data slate, and they feel really strong. They are almost too complex for their own good, but
Yeah.
I think somebody will, make this team like podium at some point in the next 3 months. I would guess at a bigger tournament.
Cool.
I don't know if they're going to win anything, but I wouldn't be surprised if we see like a second or third place with somebody playing Warp Coven at some point. I don't know. There's a lot of passionate Warp Coven players out there that have just been waiting for their chance.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't be surprised to see it. So I don't know. I like high B tier right now. It feels like it could maybe be a little low, but we'll see how things shake up.
Okay.
Okay. Let's see here. Let's talk about Kasrkin, Ryan.
Oh, okay.
Kasrkin, I think, is a team that neither of us are that high on.
No.
They kind of got their buffs a couple data slates ago, and everybody thought, hey, this is like such a good team. And they've done absolutely nothing since then.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I don't really think that they're very good.
Yeah.
You've played them more than I have. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, I played against them most recently in the game I played with the running Void Dancers. First off, that's just like a horrible matchup for them. And I think we were also playing on loot.
Yeah, they hate loot.
Yeah, they hate loot. They hate models that have a blanket 4-up invuln across the entire army. And they hate stuff that they can't shoot with Domino Field. So, I mean, kind of a nightmare matchup for them, really, in that game. That being said, I think they're, man, I don't know. Honestly, I'm gonna let my bias completely show here. Like I've been on both sides with this team. I've run them and I've played against them, and I just think they're bad. I just think they're bad. I'm just gonna put them in D tier.
Oh no, I don't know if I'd go that far. I don't know if I'd go that far. So
okay, we'll go low C underneath the Void Dancers because it's their nightmare matchup. All right, we'll just do that.
I'm fine with that. If you wanted to make the case for D tier, you could say this is a team that wins no tournaments, that win rate wise, if we care about win rates, has just been atrocious for such a long while. I mean, it's been going on months now. I'm pretty sure their win rates have been abysmal. I don't think they have any good matchups into hordes. All that they really do is beat elites. And that's about it. I'm not even sure if they beat Nemesis Claw personally.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I like them low C tier personally. I just don't get the hype around Kasrkin, and it seems to be dying down at this point, so I can't talk about it too much, but there was like a lot of Kasrkin hype. And I can't think of a team that has failed to live up to the hype as much as Kasrkin has.
Yeah.
Because I remember when we did our last tier list, that was when people were high on Kasrkin. And I remember being low on Kasrkin, and we put them in like B tier. And now even that feels like above, what
they wound up
should
performing.
Yeah. So I am totally fine with bottom as like low C tier, personally.
All right.
And it gets you now.
Yeah.
Right?
Let's pick a team that I actually have some experience playing here. Let's go ahead and talk about Chaos Cult.
Ooh, Chaos Cult, yeah.
Yeah.
So Chaos Cult is like they like got nerfed, and you could tell that people didn't really want to play this team because they got nerfed a little bit, and their play rate just dropped. Like
Immediately
they
dropped.
just vanished from the
Yeah,
meta. I still think they're quite good.
I think so
I,
too.
yeah, I find it hard to believe that they're suddenly bad. I think they're better than Warp Coven.
Yeah.
Um,
Would you say
oh
like
man,
low A?
I think they're like a low A. I think that's appropriate
Yeah.
because they still have like the same amount of activations, and
They just
like they
dropped an
lost a
operative
body.
though, right? Yeah.
Yeah, they lost a devotee, which is good. It's an important change. It's one less guy that you have to kill that can become a torment. Um, but their end game, their turn 4 is still fantastic.
Hmm.
And I don't know. Like somebody pointed out to me that like in some matchups, you know how they have that ploy where like if they're below their starting wounds, they get like a reroll in defense.
Yeah.
Somebody pointed out to me that like if you mutate a mutant into a torment and you when you roll to heal them, they have 12 instead of 13 wounds. And you have that ploy online, they're actually more survivable against shooting on math, which is kind of funny to think about.
That is funny. Yeah.
Because they get the reroll.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, no, I mean their turn 4 is still great. Torments are still fantastic. They present issues that I think a lot of teams just can't solve.
Hmm.
So I'm okay with low A.
Yeah.
Personally.
All right.
Okay,
So go ahead and pick a team.
let's go with Navis Preachers, who is a team that I think is kind of hard to evaluate because I think they're always pretty good.
Yeah.
Um, they always feel like an A tier team to me. And maybe that's, I don't know, maybe they're not A tier. Maybe they're just like very predictable. They have 11 activations, which is good. But I found that top players know what to expect from Navis Breachers at this point.
Hmm.
There's very little happening with that team that is like catching people off guard. And I can't speak to it because they're one of the few teams in the game that I haven't personally played ever, even one time.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I've never played Navis Breachers. Most of the teams I've played like once, if or like if I haven't played them a lot, I've like at least thrown a game in at some point
Yeah.
over the past 3 years. Breachers are not never. I've just never played them. They've never really captured my attention. I've played against them in tournament games, and my experience has kind of reflected that where I know what they can do, I know what they're planning to do, and they're just sort of a hammer. And if I mess up, then they're gonna punish me really hard, and otherwise they're not gonna like surprise me. So maybe they're like a high B tier team actually. I
All
don't
right.
know. They don't feel like insurmountable when I play against them.
Let's go ahead now and talk about Blooded.
Ooh, blooded.
In the past, you and I have both kind of talked about how Blooded feels like the most balanced team in the game.
Yeah.
Um, at a top level, like playing at Worlds, I don't know if they have the stuff to really threaten to win.
So I think that they struggle into Chaos Cult and Gellerpox pretty hard, but I think you could make the argument that with Vekard getting nerfed, um, Blooded feels a little bit better now.
Yeah.
Maybe they kind of like were the third best horde team, and now they're kind of like shooty horde, and now they're kind of like the second best shooty horde team. Maybe
Hmm.
um, at least there's like some competition. So I feel like Blooded is above average at this point. And there were some people that took them to Worlds that did decently well. And I think if Worlds happened today, I think we'd see a couple blooded players still. Um, for some reason, players just really gravitate towards that team. So I don't know, like they just have a million threats, which I really like. And they don't have like the objective play that Vetguard do, and they don't deal with melee hordes particularly well. But I don't know. I still think they're a pretty good team. They're probably not A tier. If they are A tier, they're very low A tier. Um, and honestly, I think they're better than Breachers at this point in time? That's a tough question. My like,
I feel like they have a more unpredictable play pattern to
yeah, that's a
them than
thing.
Navis Breachers do.
I think Navis Breachers appear more powerful, but I think I'm more afraid of Blooded than I am of Breachers if I'm at a tournament. So maybe, I don't know. What do you think? Low A or high B? I would put them above Breachers
I
if
would
they're in
say
B.
high B.
Okay. I'm okay with that. I think Blooded feels pretty good. And maybe we bump them up to A depending on what other stuff looks like, but
Yeah.
yeah.
All right.
All right. Next up, let's do Hearthkyn Salvagers because I was messing around with this team a little bit recently. And honestly, because they have such a weird play style that like I evaluating them, my initial thought was, well, this team's so weird. Maybe it doesn't matter that they fit like none of my criteria. Like maybe their playstyle is just so out of the box that they can like work in their own way. And I played them for a little bit, and I just don't see it. They definitely, I think they're like better than Kasrkin, and they're probably better than both the teams we have in C right now. Honestly, I think they're probably better than Void Dancers. But like, I don't know. I don't think anybody's going to win a big tournament with them anytime soon, and maybe I'm wrong about that. But the mobility is just every time you play this team, you're just always an inch short on everything you want to do.
Yeah.
And um, on some boards, you can kind of make up for it, right? Like the 6-inch deployment zones on open. You start a little further up the board. The board's more narrow, so you don't need to like go side to, like pivoting from one lane to another is a lot less of a commitment. But on like a diagonal deployment, oh my god, it's like if you remember when Into the Dark came out before we had the Into the Dark crit ops, how some of those missions that they gave us were like you deploy a guy on the left and he's going to be on the left forever.
Yeah.
That's just how it feels like playing Hearthkyn to me, on any board.
Yeah, I don't like
Um,
that.
so like their guns are absolutely amazing. Offensively, they just wreck. Um, but I don't know. I haven't seen the skill ceiling for this team evidently, and they're currently sitting in the finals, the grand finals of our own CPTS, as we speak. So, 115 player tournament and Hearthkyn's in the finals. So maybe they're a B tier team, and
I would say, yeah, we should probably bump them up to B at least.
they did just get a couple buffs. I think that they're a very hard team to play, but we don't factor that in. Like I said,
Yep.
oh, I would expect Vetguard to win a tournament even with the nerfs before Hearthkyn, but I'm okay with Hearthkyn being in B tier. They definitely feel fair to play against. They crush elites like harder than any team. I think they crush elites harder than Caster can do personally. Because with Kasrkin, you kill the gunners, and now it's like, oh, well, it's a bunch of like las guns. With Hearthkyn, you kill the gunners, and then like the regular guys become gunners because they're all like auto critting you with P1,
Yep.
and it's like you can run like 8 guns with AP on this team, which is wild. So yeah, let's go bottom of B tier.
All right. Let's talk about the novitiates.
Ooh, yeah. Novitiates have been like weirdly stealth buffed like several times now, and they didn't get changed in the data slate. But there was like a massive change in the last FAQ with how their leader works. So their leader has an ability where if she during her activation, if she does a mission action or kills an enemy operative, you can select a sister or a novitiate sister operative within 6 inches of her in like GA2. And for the first like 2 years of this team's existence, there was zero clarification on when during her activation you pick the novitiate that would GA2. So I think a lot of people played it as like when you activate. Now they FAQ'd it so that if you do either of those things at any point during her activation, you can pick a novitiate within 6 and GA2, which like is massive. That's like the difference between, you know, activating, selecting somebody who has to be nearby, and then killing something, and then trying to figure out a way to make a good play with that operative, or killing something, and say you have 3 APL and you move dash 9 inches up the board towards a flamer that's already threatening at the other side of the board, and then GA2ing with that flamer going forward and killing a bunch of things.
Yeah.
So that's huge buff. And the team was already pretty good before, hard to play but good. I think they're easily A tier. Probably. I mean, honestly, I'm okay with putting them above Hunter Clade.
Wow. Okay.
They just feel really good to me. And I think they struggled into Vetguard a little bit, personally. And Vetguard just got nerfed. And they struggled into Commandos, and Commandos just got nerfed. So I don't know. I would definitely not put them in A tier or an S tier, but I'm okay with putting them as like a high A tier team.
IA. All right.
So it's me now, right?
Yes.
Okay. Let's go and let's talk about Fellgor, Ravagers. Just nerfed, but I think still like pretty clearly oppressive. And I would say S tier still. Like they fixed some of like the really dumb interactions, like the gong.
Yeah.
Like the gong ability doesn't work when he's frenzied now, which I think is great.
Mm-hmm.
But like there's still like all the things they were crushing before. I don't think these changes make them not crush them anymore. They're not spamming Warpaint, which is a good thing for the game. And they're going to be forced to like explore different equipment options. But like, I don't know. Like if you hated playing against Fellgor Ravagers before, I don't think you're looking at those nerfs and being like, oh, finally I can take this team on. You know?
Yeah.
I think teams that had okay matchups into Fellgors before feel fine. And teams that struggled in them are still struggling into them. Frenzy is like a really powerful mechanic. And I think they're still S tier. I was playing them a little bit against you for a bit, Ryan. I mean, what do you think?
Yeah, I think they're still pretty oppressive. I mean, like, there's some teams that just are gonna not be able to deal with them with just simply because of the frenzy ability, just the core ability of that army. Really, unless you have some kind of like double shoot, I want to say. Yeah, they're still a difficult team to deal with, even with the nerfs, or excuse me, the buffs. Or no, the nerfs.
Yeah, you got it right. Yeah.
So yeah, I would say they're still an S tier team.
Yeah, I would agree. It's still a million wounds basically to chew through, and
yeah,
their tactical plays are still amazing. And you just need to be a little bit more cognizant of how you use your leader with the dash. Yeah, I think still S tier easily.
All right, so moving on here, I'm gonna pull a fast one on you. Kill Team Justian.
Ooh, Kill Team, Strike Force Justian. Nobody really knows what they're called.
Who cares?
It's something Justian. But hold on, Ryan.
Oh no, don't. All right.
So there is an argument that is creeping into the public sphere, the discourse of Kill Team chat.
Fake news.
And I am starting to be a little convinced. And the argument is that Strike Force Justian, competitively at this moment, is a better team than Intercession.
Okay.
And
Okay.
I think I'm starting to be convinced of that. Other players are starting to say it, and I gave it some thought. And I think it's narrow and it's very, very close, but I can see the argument. Um, I think there's C tier, about like low C tier, Strike
Okay.
Force Justian. But like I think the argument is against the teams that Intercession struggle against, which is at this point, let's be honest, it's a lot of teams. Um, Justian is like a little bit better because they have the invuln on the leader, they have smoke grenades, so they have some form of obscuring. Um, they have like a heavy bolter that now hits on. It has 5 attacks now
Yep.
officially. Thank you, Errata, and they have tac ups now, which is always good.
What are their archetypes again?
Same as Intercession, so it's Seek and Destroy and Security. So basically, it's Seek and Destroy,
Yeah.
which is fine. Um, I and they get a bajillion CP, so they don't get equipment. Kind of like it's like they get equipment, but it's like you don't have a choice.
Yeah.
Like you get a smoke grenade, and you get a 4-up invuln on your leader, and stuff like that. Um, and like the sniper has some stuff on his card too that could maybe be equipment in another team. Um, so yeah, I mean they're an elite team that is kind of interesting, not that interesting, but I think they are better than Intercession. I actually do. I'm convinced now.
Yeah. I believe that too. My argument when this team first came out was, oh, this is just. I mean, it's not as complicated Intercession. Intercession was a very
Mhm.
simple team to run to begin with. But just because of the different weapon options that you have, not different weapon options, I should say, but just the variety of like actual hard hitting, like lethal weapons that
Mhm.
you have, you're not just bolter spamming people with like a plasma pistol. Now you got a
Yeah.
plasma pistol, a power fist, a sniper rifle, the heavy bolter, like you were talking about. So
Mhm.
yeah, I think they're better than Intercession.
Okay. Yeah, I think so too. And I guess while we're at it, let's just throw Intercession right behind them
Yep.
in C tier because like they're so close and one's better, so that seems like a no brainer. Um, I think in Intercession they just have so many bad matchups. I feel like every team beats Intercession lately.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah. Uh, Moving on. Let's throw a team into D tier, Ryan. Grab me them Farstalker Kinbands.
Oh, buddy.
We are on buff
The
like
more
6 or 7,
things change, the
and
more things stay the same.
I mean the buffs for this team. It's just insulting at this point. I mean, what is the faction identity for this team to just suck and be bad? Because it's like the last they've been buffed like 5 or 6 times, maybe like 4 or 5 times. Maybe I'm exaggerating, but I think it's been 4 times at least. We've had run throughs to buff this team, and uh the last data slate, it's like really like this is it. Um, they gave the melee specialist, the stalker, a 4th attack. Like it's this thing that's taken over a year for one of the melee specialists to have 4 attacks in melee. Um, which I know Cutthroats was already getting them there, but like, why do you have to spend CP for your melee to be baseline? They made the dogs GA1, which if you talk to like the few good Kroot players that exist out there, they will actually tell you that this is like not even a buff because
Yeah, because there's that whole recover item play that you can do with them, right? Well,
well
that
you
you
still
used to be able to do with them.
you can still do well, yeah, you can still do that. But the thing is the one of the only ways this team had to like chip a ton of damage onto elites was by using the dogs with GA2 to double charge like an intercessor and just like chomp him to bits. And now they took that away. Like, why did they not make the Warriors GA1? Like, why make because the Warriors are GA2 and the Hounds are GA2, and the Hounds have like a discernible reason, like they have a play at GA2.
Hmm.
And the Warriors, I mean, outside of like Instadark, like opening a door and having another guy go and steal an objective or something, the Warriors being GA2 is not helpful. You could have made them GA1, and I think it actually would be like a buff. Because when you think about it, like the idea is You make them GA1, and now they have 12 activations instead of 11, which is significant normally. But the dogs, who you liked having GA2 for, were making those plays against elite teams who have 6 activations anyway. So it's like, now if you
Yeah.
want 12 activations, you're playing the dogs, where I think a lot of the time you would, if you're on loot or secure or into the dark, you want the double warriors. And it would be great to have those as 12 activations, and you can't. And then the other buff that they gave, which is just like a slap in the face, is the comms specialist. I didn't even know this. Before, the comms specialist couldn't comms buff people if there was an enemy within 6 inches of him. For some reason,
Yeah.
that was a restriction that existed. Um, Now he can.
Great.
Okay. What? What?
Cool.
Like, this has been the
This
worst team in the
operative
game
went
for,
from horrible to comparable.
yeah, I mean,
Great.
this has been the worst team in the game for like a year now, and like the buffs are, honestly, it's a complete joke. They're still the worst team. They feel horrible to play. The diehard Kroot players have pretty much stopped playing them for the most part.
That's horrible.
Yeah, and it's like, I don't know. I really don't get it. I don't understand. Um, Something needs to be changed with the way this team works. Like, there's still so many restrictions on the Stalker. There's still so many restrictions on the Pistolier. The Cutskin, the Cutskin melee specialist has like a double fight ability, and he is like the one of the only melee guys in the game with a double fight ability that isn't allowed to target the same guy twice. He has to be different guys. Like, what is this crap? What is with this team? Why
Yeah.
are they not allowed to just function? I really don't understand it. So yeah, bottom of D.
All right. I'm gonna go ahead and choose. I think you guys have waited long enough. We're 46 minutes into this tier list. Let's talk about Nemesis Claw. All right. Woo! Elites are so back.
Are they?
I'm still pretty high on Nemesis Claw.
So I haven't really played much Nemesis Claw or against them. Ryan, we have to get a game in soon, honestly.
Yeah.
But I've been thinking about them a lot. I've been talking with people about them, and they're definitely, in my eyes, the best elite team right now. It's interesting comparing them to Legionnaires, because there are actually ways that Legionnaires are better than Nemesis Claw, and there's ways that
Yeah.
Nemesis Claw are better than Legionnaires. But I would say that Nemesis Claw provides some pretty unique problems for a lot of teams to deal with, which is a unique thing for elites. Elites do not normally present problems in different ways. So like,
Yeah.
Vox Scream obviously is a huge deal, right?
Yeah.
I would say the activation skip is kind of a huge deal in some matchups. In a lot of matchups, it doesn't matter at all. But for like, I talked about Warp Coven earlier about how they crush elites. The build where Warp Coven crushes elites is they run 7 models, and Nemesis Claw with the pass makes that a significant thing. Like, all of a sudden you might go last against that team,
Yeah.
which changes the whole dynamic of the matchup. Their disruption is really good. Some of their models are just going to be really, really hard to deal with. Just like a Visionary with a Grizzly trophy with like Justice Scratch online, basically, is just forget about it. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, they're probably low A. Like, how good can an elite team be? I guess is
That
the
was
question
what
right
I
now.
first said when we got our hands on the rules.
Yeah.
I think I'm looking at the teams that we have right now in A and in S. I think like Chaos Cult, it's still a tough matchup just because of bodies.
You know what? I think Nemesis Claw beats all the teams you have in A right now. Like, in a straight matchup. I don't know if that puts them above them on the tier list. Because I thought Legionary was okay into Chaos Cults personally.
Yeah.
And I think that Nemesis Claw is better into Chaos Cults than Legionary are. So, and I think that they would beat Hunter Clade, maybe. Maybe.
I mean,
I think they beat
shoot,
Novitiate.
isn't one of the strengths of Hunter Clade like all of like their dice like rerolls?
I mean,
Isn't
they have
that
a
a
lot of
thing you said?
rerolls. Like Hunter
Well, I
Clade
mean, like
has.
the flayed skin shuts down rerolls.
Yeah, that is true. The Flayed Skin does shut down rerolls, which is pretty good. Um, once we need an errata to make In Midnight Clad function properly, because right now it is a nearly useless ability as written. But I hope TOs are going to rule it in a sensible way, because right now, if Nemesis, so In Midnight Clad states, if you're more than 6 inches from enemy operatives and concealed and within 1 inch of cover, you're obscured. So obviously, if you're with if you have those conditions and you're in heavy cover, you're not shootable anyway. If you have those conditions, you're in light cover. Uh, if they're on the ground, they can't shoot you anyway. But here's where it gets stupid, and where they need an errata. Because if a model is up on a vantage point looking down at you in light cover, they
Uh-huh.
treat you as engaged, which means that in Midnight Clad doesn't trigger. It's stupid.
Oh.
And which means the only way to actually make Midnight Clad trigger is to be in front of cover, within an inch of cover, but not in cover. Like you need to be standing in front of a barricade, and then you're obscured to them. So this needs an errata because I don't know, but
It's funny you should say that because in my game against Blooded, a lot of the time my Nemesis Claw operatives were in front of within an inch
yeah,
of cover
there you go.
because it's just like, oh, well, this works. I don't even have to be in cover to be obscured.
For what it's worth,
Great.
Hunter Clay does have access to ignore obscuring, which is pretty good.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I mean, maybe bottom of A is fine. Like their matchup spread is probably just a little worse than those other teams in A tier. I would bump them above Chaos Called. You know, let's put them above Chaos Called. I wouldn't quite put them in any higher though, but that's still really high for an elite team, right?
Yeah. Like this team hasn't even been released yet.
Yeah,
Like the
I
only
know,
people
right?
that has gotten their hands on this team and has played games with them is either like content creators like us, or it is people who have been like playing them on TTS with all the rules that have been like
Mhm.
reviewed and compiled by content creators.
Yeah,
So I mean,
yeah.
I'm comfortable with putting them in A until further testing, I guess.
All right, yeah, that's fine with me. So I guess Mandrakes now, Ryan.
Yeah, if you want.
I do want.
Okay.
Uh, I have been playing a lot of Mandrakes, and I'll be honest, when we first got the rules, I thought that Mandrakes were going to be worse than Nemesis Claw, and I actually kind of saw them as being like very similar to Hand of the Archon, but honestly, I'm several games in now. I've played them like 5 or 6 times, and I think that they are the better team in the box, personally, and that is saying something because I think Nemesis Claw is very good. Uh, I I mean, Mandrakes are going to make people mad.
Yeah. Yeah,
Like you're
they're
either
kind of
going
toxic.
to, yeah, like there's a couple different ways you can react to playing against Mandrakes. I think there's going to be some people who are like, this team is so cool, I need to go buy them right now and play them after we're done playing. And there's going to be the other type of person who's going to be like, I hate playing against this team. Make it stop. Make it go away. Um, they are in many ways similar to Hand of the Archon, but it's like just so much better. They have a lot of like I love their like model redundancy. They almost feel like void dancers in a way, but with 9 bodies. Um, and they're like tricky. They like mess with you in a lot of ways. So like they project threats in a very weird way where you can first of all, when you read the team versus when you play them for the first time, there are certain things that look way worse than they are, and there's certain things that look way stronger than they are. Like the Shadow Passage teleport, you see that and you're like, oh my god, they're gonna teleport into my back lines and kill me. I'm gonna have no response.
Yeah.
But actually, the teleport, you're probably gonna see it like once per turn, and it's gonna like grab a point in the early game. It'll like grab a mid board point safely, and then like later in the game, it's gonna like go and like grab attack op. And you won't be able to stop it, but it's not gonna like kill you. It's not gonna like alpha strike your team because it can't shoot. Um, and their in shadow ability, where like they're within 1 inch of heavy cover and stuff or under a vantage point. The first time I read that, I'm like, well, sometimes you're gonna have to leave shadow, and they're gonna lose those bonuses, and they're gonna feel a lot weaker. I'm gonna be honest, Ryan. My games I play, my models are almost always in shadow.
That's just where models hang out. They hang out in
That's where
heavy
models hang
cover.
out.
They hang out under vantage points. They hang out. Yeah.
And like that's where the objectives are in a lot of boards is in heavy cover. Like you can usually find ways, and even if there's areas like patches of the board that aren't in shadow, like you can usually they have a ploy, which I think is their best ploy, called Creeping Horror, where after your opponent activates a model, before you activate a model, you can pick one of your operatives that are within shadow and make a dash with them into a spot that's also in shadow. So, and that's before you activate them. So what this means is your opponent goes, you dash a guy 3 inches, or if you have a certain equipment point or equipment piece, you can dash them 4 inches, and then you can choose to activate that guy, flip them to engage, and charge 8 inches, which means Mandrakes can effectively have an 11 to 12 inch charge online across their whole team. And that level of asymmetrical threat is like very unprecedented across a whole team.
Yeah.
On top of that, their baseline shooting is good against everything. It's really good into some things, but it's like any team that's like 8 wounds or something, or like there's all these teams that are like these 10 model teams that would, if they had a 5-up save, they would just feel like crap, like Hearthkyn, or Kasrkin. Like if Kasrkin had a 5-up save, it would be horrible. Like it would be like playing Vekguard with like artillery. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And when Mandrakes are shooting you, they basically have a 5-up save. So their shooting is good against everything, but they can like flex between shooting and melee depending on the matchup. Like if I'm playing Kasrkin, I can just play Mandrakes as like a pure melee team.
Yeah.
And like you can't do anything about it. But if I'm playing against a melee team, I can light you up because you have 5-up saves against me probably, or at best 4-up saves. And they have a lot of access to rerolls, unlike teams like Corsairs.
Yes. Yeah.
So much like how I think Nemesis Claw is the best elite team in the game, I think Mandrakes are easily the best Eldar team in the game.
Mm-hmm.
And I would put them right now, without more practice. Part of me thinks S tier, but I think I would put them at the very top of A tier right now.
Top A tier. Okay.
They feel really strong. They are very brittle. They're not easy to play. And I think you can get stuck in like deployment if you set up wrong. It's very unforgiving, I think. So,
okay.
Really, really big fan of the team, but yeah. Okay, where to next, Ryan?
I want to talk about scouts a little bit.
Okay.
I feel like scouts and not Mandrakes, excuse me. Scouts and Blades of Kane are two teams that they came out and we were like, oh, cool. And like we were excited for the scouts. And then they just kind of didn't really do much of anything.
Yeah, they're kind of underwhelming.
There's
been a lot of talk
straightforward.
They're very straightforward.
For all the options they have in terms of like their pregame shenanigans. Yeah.
I think that I've seen enough good players like talk about them at this point that I thought they were kind of trash at first, but I'm starting to warm up to them a little bit. I still don't think they're B tier. I would say they're like high C tier.
Mm-hmm.
They just have like a few too many like weird restrictions that I think if you just lifted those restrictions, the team would actually be in a really, really good place. They're like very close to being in a really good place. Like the shotguns are fantastic. The sergeant is a really strong model. You just need to like use him very carefully because he's your only source of comms on the team.
Yeah.
Um, and I don't know, like they just feel pretty decent to me. They're 9 model team. They're beefy. The forward scouting is very good. Like the thing to like -1 APL a guy on the other side is very, very effective. It can like shut down a lot of turn 1 plays that your opponent sets up in deployment. Having access to like multiple infiltrates or multiple recons right at the start of the game
Great.
is really good. And the booby trap is actually quite good. The first time I read the booby trap, I was like, it doesn't look that good, but I think it's really good. Triple arms are okay. They just have like a lot of like tools, kind of.
Yeah.
Um, and I do kind of like the team, but they're just like slightly lacking to me. I think they're better than Void Dancers, personally.
Okay.
I think you could put them at the top of C tier, and I'm like pretty comfortable with that.
They're worse than Salvagers.
They're like neck and neck to me. I think
Okay.
Salvagers are like maybe a little better, but like I don't know.
Okay.
Do we want to talk about the other team from Salvation?
Yeah, Blades of
Blades of
Kane.
Kane?
Didn't they just
Yeah,
win a major or a tournament somewhere?
they both. So I think there was some weirdness, but like they on the West Coast, I think it was the Pacific Skirmish Open.
Yeah.
Blades of Kane was taken by a couple really good players, a few really good players that I'm aware of. I know Chris Baki took them and Alex Squires took them, and they both did very well. They both went 3-1, I think.
Oh, okay.
And um so or at least like I think Alex might have gone 3 wins and a tie, and I think Chris went 3 wins and a loss, which is like looking at the players that were at this tournament, it was like a lot of the very best players in the West Coast. So I think that Blades of Kane is definitely a team that is better than they appear. Kind of like similar to Scouts. I think Scouts looked a little underwhelming, and then I'm starting to turn a little bit my opinion on them. Um, I think Blades. I'm now at the point where I think Blades are better than Scouts.
Okay.
I don't know how to play them, and I really want to do it. Like I want to get like Chris or somebody to just sit down with me, and like I want to record something talking about Blades of Kane for the channel at some point,
Yeah.
because I want to know more about what this team does. I know that Chris was running like a few Dire Avengers in some of his games, and he would usually run a mix, but I think in one of his games he actually went 8 Scorpions and like won.
Oh, okay. That is
So like
would not
pretty
expect that.
crazy. Yeah, and I'm starting to think this team is like very complicated, but when piloted well, pretty effective. It's just that I think they lack reliability in some ways, because you can do these plays where like I charge this guy and I roll 4 dice and I crit you and then I fall back for free and I do it and I'm flying and I fly over a wall and then I shoot another guy, and like I have rending and like I don't have a reroll, but like I just did like 4 things, and then you get to the end of the activation, it's like you didn't even kill anybody. Like nobody
Yeah.
died. Um and like I think I described it when we did the video talking about them. Maybe it was this team, maybe it was another team, but it's like that scene in Indiana Jones with the guy who's got like the whip and he's doing the sword and he's doing all the
Yeah.
cool things, and then he just pulls his gun out and shoots him.
Yeah.
That's kind of how Blades of Kane feels, but like there's some juice there, and I think they're B tier above Hearthkyn probably, and that's probably where I'd put them. Unfortunately, an expensive team to play if you want to play them
Yes.
competitively.
Yeah, it'd be like cuz you need 3 boxes, right? Cuz
Yeah,
you need the Scorpions, you need the Howling Banshees, you need the Dire Avengers. So you're looking at, I mean, like over $150, right?
Yeah, like
I don't know
if
what the
you
price of a Dire Avengers box is. It might even be like something like $35 or something like that. Maybe
I know
maybe
the
60.
Howling Banshees box is egregious.
They're a
Like
newer
say
sculpt, yeah, so they're pricey.
hypothetically, if you want to run 8 Dire Avengers, the Dire Avenger box is like $55, and it comes with 5 Dire Avengers or something.
Yeah,
Like, so you would need to drop over 100 alone just to be able to run mono or not Dire Avengers, striking Howling Banshees.
yeah.
So you would need to drop like over $100 alone just to run mono Banshees, which is just insane. Um, but yeah, really, really expensive. That's not really what we're here to talk about, Ryan.
No.
What next? We're nearing the end. The end is in sight. So let's go pick a team for us.
Legionnaires.
Ooh. So well, we know they're behind Nemesis Claw.
Yep.
I don't think they're an A tier, but I do think that the public opinion on Legionaries is probably lower than it should be. I think they're below blooded. And I'm okay with them being behind Breachers as well. Honestly, probably behind Warp Coven.
Oh, jeez.
I'll stop there though.
Okay.
Because Legionnaires, I've heard a lot of people say like, oh, you need to take Tzeentch and because you might run into Kasrkin. But first of all, that doesn't make any sense to me because you could just as easily take Tzeentch and run into Fellgors and be very sad that you don't have Nurgle. And what are you more likely to run into at the top table of a tournament? Probably Fellgors.
Yeah.
Because everybody talked about the incoming Kasrkin menace that was going to ruin top tables and kill elites. And the problem being, Kasrkin aren't making it to top tables. So, like, you can take Tzeentch, sure, and then if you run into Kasrkin, crush them, maybe, or fail your 4-up invulns and die, just like you would with Nurgle. Or you can play Nurgle, decent chance you don't run into Kasrkin at all, and actually have a chance at top table if you make it there. Because, first of all, you're probably only going to... There's not a lot of, like, top players playing Kasrkin. This exists, it's out there, but it's not super common. So, if you're going to a tournament and, like, your first couple of rounds, you don't play Kasrkin, you're golden, you're better off playing Nurgle. And if your first couple of rounds you do play Kasrkin, it probably won't be like a really good player, and like the difference isn't that extreme where like you're just auto losing to like a bad player. So, you know, like yes, you could play Nurgle and run into Kasrkin, like an even skill player, and have a bad time, but you're still going to have a bad time if you play Tzeentch and run into Fellgors or Commandos, in my opinion. So just don't take Tzeentch. Like, can we stop with the Tzeentch thing? Like, I'm sorry. Like, it's just not the better way to play the team. I think if they're being played properly and they're being played with Nurgle, some of their boogeyman matchups got a little better. Like, Vetguard got nerfed, and I think I'm not as worried about Vetguard anymore. Warp Coven got better, which is actually kind of scary for me, in my opinion. Commandos got worse, who we already were pretty good against, but still a good team. I think Legionnaires have good play into Fellgor. You know, it's not that bad, guys. It's really not that bad. So, I don't know. I like where we have them right now.
All right.
Rant over.
Okay. So now you pick a team.
Yeah, let's go ahead and let's go Wormblade.
Okay.
Because I think Wormblade is very much on the up right now.
Okay.
And I think that's like part of it is like a side effect of other teams getting nerfed. And I think like residually they have slowly become one of the better shooty hordes in the game. Their buffs feel really nice. I got really good experience into top Wormblade at Adepticon playing against Jonathan Reynolds. He plays that team very well. I think they're an A tier for sure right now. I think like the threat saturation wise, they have a lot of ways to hurt you. Between the two cult agents, the leader is a threat to most things. Both the heavy gunners can be a threat. They have a grenade launcher, which is a threat. I think their Weber is kind of a threat. Like even shotguns GA2ing are a threat. The
Yeah.
stupid blasting charge coming in from hiding is a threat. Um, they have 11 activations turn one if you do hiding properly, and after that they have 10. Um, and I don't know. I think they threat saturate really well. They're similar. They feel a little bit like Blooded, but I think they're kind of better than Blooded because I think they play the mission a lot better than Blooded. On capture, Blooded is probably a better team, but on secure and loot, I would lean towards Wormblade. I just don't know if I put Wormblade above all these other teams in A. I mean, they're quite good, uh, but like I don't know. It's tough. They're not easy to play for sure. They're very unforgiving in my opinion. If you lose your agents, the game can get really hard really fast, and it's hard to like. It's easy to fall into a rhythm against teams that out activate you, where you're just trading, and it feels good because you're killing things, but then you look at the board halfway through turn two, and you're like really depleted, and they
Yeah.
have a couple more bodies than you. So like, I think they're pretty good into team like mid-range teams and elites, but I think they struggle still into blooded and like maybe Navis breachers. I think they struggle in. They might still struggle into Vet Guard, honestly, and Inquisition as well. So I think low A is appropriate for them. I think they're kind of being a little bit overrated, but I think the sentiment of them rising in the tiers to A is accurate. So
Okay. Um, I'm gonna go ahead and pick Exaction Squad.
ooh, yeah.
Exaction Squad chain, kind of off topic here. I think like at our local game store, Millennium in Rochester, I think Exaction Squad is like the number three like highest selling like kill team period.
Really?
Yeah. I'm
I
no
would never have
joke.
gone.
No joke. Every time they come in, it's like the weekend comes and then they're gone.
Who are you people buying Exaction Squad and then not
I
showing
think
up?
just people love space cops, man. I
They are
think
cool.
that's what it is. But anyways, I mean my knee-jerk reaction is I mean they're bad against Nemesis Claw, right? You can't arrest Night Lords.
They're bad against all elites, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Um, they're like a weird
That
thing where
doesn't
like their
necessarily
win
mean that they're bad though.
true. Their win rate is actually respectable, but their like podium rate is among the worst.
Okay.
Like you just can't win a tournament with this team, and I don't know exactly why. I don't play the team, so I don't have the insider knowledge. I suspect they might be D tier
Oof.
based on that.
Okay.
They because I don't know, like if they just can't top three a tournament, they just can't seem to do it. And if that's the case, then they're probably D tier. They lose to elites, which is unusual. Um, they have weird
Yes.
matchup spreads because they're like a weird team. I think they're pretty good into Hierotek, for instance. Well, they're not good into Hierotek, but they're like a problem for Hierotek, and that might just be how Exaction Squad functions, where they're just kind of like a pain in the butt for every team, but they don't really beat anybody. Once you get into like the top table play. And so like D kind of feels harsh because they're kind of competitive with everybody, but you don't win with them. So like you don't win tournaments with them. Like you
Yeah.
don't win when it really matters when you're in
Yeah.
those tough games. So I think I'm okay with putting them at top of D.
Okay.
Okay, where are we going next?
We
Let's
got one,
see.
two.
Do let's do Corsairs. I have thoughts on Corsairs.
Yeah, you were
I
telling me
think
about
that
them the other day.
yeah, so like my experience at Adepticon playing versus Corsairs like kind of was like eye-opening. I think that since their buffs a couple data sites ago, they haven't been like experimented with a ton, but I think that they are like secretly quite good. And I think the only thing that they're missing is like more rerolls. Like they don't really have rerolls. Um, and I don't know, like just the deadly ambush ploy, I think it's called, where they can charge you if you come near them. Them being able to do that with readied models on conceal makes turn two like kind of a nightmare
Yeah.
to play against. And their action economy is like it's like the opposite of Hand of the Archon, where their action economy is just phenomenal. They can do insane things. Like you can on Into the Dark, you can like move uh light fingers a door. Like if you give a guy 3 APL, like you can move, open a door for free with a CP with light fingers, dash for free with their basic ability, shoot somebody off a point, and then like loot the point. Like you could do like 5 actions in one activation with a Corsair.
Yeah.
And all they're missing is like rerolls, but like they still hit on threes. And I think that like them being really hard to play and them not being particularly popular has more to do with them not winning tournaments. I think they struggle into shooty hordes, but that to me like sounds like I'm describing like a low A tier team rather than like a B tier team like they've always been sort of positioned as.
Mm-hmm.
They're one of the fastest teams in the game. They're like up there with like course Mandrakes and like Blades of Kane.
Yeah.
But like yeah, unlike Blades of Kane, they have harder hitting weapons. They have like AP weapons, and they have like I don't know, like they're not 3 APL, but they're pseudo 3 APL, and they have a comms and they have ways to do free mission actions. So it's like I don't know, like they threaten turn one like crazy. They just crush elites. And I think they have game into most teams. So I see Corsairs as a team that has crept up into like low A tier
Okay. Yeah.
over the past like 6 months, personally.
Okay. That's a wild thing to say because like you and I have been like very low on that team for a long time. And like they didn't get buffs or anything in this latest data slate. Nothing
Yeah, they
really
got buffs.
improved.
Yeah, there's 2 data slates ago they got a buff, and this past data slate nothing changed. You're right.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know. It doesn't sound like any of like their problem matchups like got nerfed. I mean, like a lot of stuff did get
Vetguard.
nerfed. Yeah, Vetguard.
Vetguard was a big problem for them.
Okay. Cool.
Um, okay, next up, where are we going, Ryan?
Let's talk about Inquisition because we like never talk about Inquisition.
Yeah,
Like
I
I
don't
was
know.
so hyped.
Inquisition's weird.
I was so hyped for this team, and then they're still unbuilt. They're so close, actually. They're so close to being fully built.
Yeah, they're a good team. They're cool. I just like I feel like the initial Inquisition hype from I mean not just from other people, from us, from everybody, I think, was maybe a little bit undeserved. Like they when they released, they were definitely really, really good, and they got nerfed with the absolute authority and their like AP2 cap on their weapons.
Yeah.
Um, and then people took them to like really good players took them to worlds and didn't make it out of groups. And then I don't see anybody winning with them really, like majors. And I think they're kind of just like they don't. I don't think they play the mission amazingly. I don't think they have like great reliability dice wise. Um, but they are like a very frustrating team to play against for a lot of factions just because of their like control that they have kind of built in.
Yeah.
So I think they're good, but they're more like in line with like a Blooded or Breachers. Whereas when they came out, it seemed like, oh, this is like a Vet Guard, you know, like this is like a really, really, really good team. But I think they're like, I would put them above Blooded, maybe.
Okay, so
either
top
above-
B.
yeah. I like that. It's just like they're good, but maybe somebody needs to like crack the code on them. But I feel like it would have happened already.
Yeah, because I mean, it's not like they weren't unpopular.
Yeah, they're probably like pretty balanced, if I'm being honest. Like they're probably just
Okay.
balanced. I don't know.
Okay.
They just read like a team that would be broken, but they just aren't. I don't know.
Cool.
What to do? Let's do. God, I'm like parsing through the stupid compendium teams.
I know.
Let's
We should
do
just like
Phobos.
delete these off here. You want to do Phobos?
So, yeah, let's do Phobos. Phobos, I think we're kind of being talked about like this, like the best elite team before Nemesis Claw.
Yeah.
I don't, I would not put them in A tier. They play the mission amazingly, um, but they are very unforgiving. And if you ask me, I think they're worse than Legionnaires. I think they've always been worse than Legionnaires. I know that like public opinion shifted against Legionnaires, um, and kind of like towards Phobos. But Phobos is like a team where they're tricky and they're like cool and hard to play. And I think everybody wants them to be better than they are, but like the truth is they're like good, but they're I don't know if they've ever been great. Maybe.
I just don't like the fact that they have just like basic bolters for their weapons. That's my biggest hang up with that team.
Yeah, well, you know, the Infiltrators got the lethal 5. Um, yeah, their damage profile is never more than 3-4 really, unless you're like getting that mine off or something.
Yeah.
Um, they are just like really fast and they play the mission well and they are cool and I see them as pretty balanced. But I think they're worse than Legionnaires. I think there's less things that are. I think Legionnaire has a few more like unfair things going for them when they're played well. Like, I still think Nurgle Legionnaires has like some legs, and I think at their peak, I think they're a more oppressive thing than Phobos is.
All right. I'm gonna choose to talk about. I'm gonna save it for you. We'll talk about Pathfinders.
All right, Ryan, you want my hot take right now?
I definitely want your hot take right now.
I think Pathfinders are probably the best team. Again.
Still?
Well, they haven't been the best team for like 2 years, I think, maybe. But they've been lingering up there in recent months. But I think now, with Commandos a little bit bumped down and Fellgor's a little bit bumped down, I think Pathfinders are probably just the best team. Like, I don't even think they're that bad on Into the Dark, honestly. With the, like, you can go on guard and from Conceal and Marker Light. And on Into the Dark, like, that's really good. Like, first of all, the door's open and they're standing in the doorway. You could just, like, Marker Light them and then run a guy up and shoot them and probably kill them. But like if they're not on the doorway and they're in behind a barricade, you can like Marker Light them on turn 1 until their barricade doesn't even give them cover anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can have a guy Marker Light and then go on guard from Conceal and Marker Light again. And if he has high intensity Marker Lights, like that one guy just put 4 Marker Lights on you.
Yeah.
Which is pretty disgusting. And like they have 12 activations. Every single for a lot of the teams in the game, every single Pathfinder model is able to kill you. Like just their weapons being baseline 4 or 5 damage is like insane to me still to this day.
Yeah.
They probably should go back to not having the recon drone for free. Like not for free, but they made him count as 1 operative. He used to count as 2, and I think they shouldn't have made that the case. They're just like so good. Their toolbox is crazy. I don't know.
Okay.
I think they're the best team. They're the team that I want to play against the least, I think, in this meta.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
All right. So we've got 1, 2.
Yeah.
I think we have 3 teams left.
Yeah, let's do Hierotek then.
Yeah.
So I have thoughts on Hierotek. So after the last data slate, there's a lot of. So first of all, before the last data slate, before Adepticon, Hierotek was like considered to be like B tier. Like a lot of people thought they were still bad. And it's funny to me that now Hierotek gets Nanomine nerfed into the ground, and they get the Technomancer buffed and the Psychomancer buffed. Now I'm going to be honest, the Psychomancer and the Technomancer buff doesn't change anything about where I rank this team because they're still worse than the Chronomancer. So realistically, at the top level, you're only playing with the 3 APL Despotek, 2 up reanimation, and much worse Nanomine. So there's a lot of debate about whether they got buffed or nerfed overall. And the common sentiment I've seen has been that they're slightly buffed. I don't agree. I think they are a little worse, and I think that the team is better off in this position than having like Nanomine the way it was before. But I think to say that the team is buffed is really underrating how broken that ability was.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not just worse; it's way worse. Like you can just like any team that has free dashes can like just dash out of it. Like you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you can look at it like the Apprentech being 3 APL is fantastic. It opens up their turn 1 a lot more, but you're not gutting your opponent's turn 1 anymore like you used to.
Yeah.
So reanimation being on a 2-up is nice too, but it's like I don't know. You should have been passing most of your reanimations anyway. And I was playing in a way where I was being aggressive on turn 2, which meant that the crucial operatives I was losing on turn 2 had 2 chances to come back.
Yeah.
Um, so I didn't ever feel like I was getting screwed over by reanimation that much. Now it's just you're almost never going to get screwed over, and when you do fail, it's going to feel horrible.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
like, I don't know. The team is still great. They're probably, I don't know. I'd probably put them top of A tier.
Above
But,
Mandrakes.
oh, you know what? Mandrakes. Oh, they brutalize Hierotek. I think Mandrakes out the gate are probably the worst matchup for Hierotek. So I would put Hierotek below Mandrakes just based on that matchup alone.
Okay.
Like all your immortals basically have 5-up saves against Mandrakes.
Yeah, that
And
doesn't feel good.
and all 9 of their models just eat you in melee. So that's a rough matchup. But yeah, I mean they're still good. Chronomancer is still the way to go. I think it's an overall nerf. Barely, barely a nerf. But it is I don't think they got better in general. So
That makes sense when you put it like that. Yeah.
yeah.
Um.
Which one next, Ryan? We have
Wow.
Stress
How did
Riders
this
and
happen?
Gellerpox. Yeah,
We've got
right?
the Rogue Trader box from
Yeah.
Kill Team 1 here. Let's talk about Gellerpox. Gellerpox are one of the weirdest teams in this game just because of just like the models themselves.
Yeah.
So I genuinely do not know where to rank them.
I think Gellerpox are super good.
Yeah.
I think that they have been first of all, they've been nerfed a bunch of times, but I think that they've still lingered near the top of A tier. And I think with the changes, with other top teams going down, I would be comfortable saying Gellerpox is low S right now, actually.
Low S? We want
Yes.
4 teams in S tier?
I'm kind of okay with it. It's not that like S tier just isn't what it was 3 months ago.
Okay. I
And
get you.
also while we're at it, I want to thin out B a little bit. I think
Yeah.
we should put Hearthkyn in top of C.
Okay.
I really don't like Hearthkyn. And yeah, no, Gellerpox just first of all, they have a great matchup, and I think Gellerpox crush Fellgor personally. I just think they eat their lunch. And any team that beats Fellgor that bad, I think it has to be an S tier at this point.
Why is it
Um,
that they crush Fellgor so bad?
so they're the Hulks, specifically having basically the injury aura makes Felgor's melee just so much worse. Like they're just all hitting on 4s, which really sucks. Because they basically can't like other teams can like try to shoot Gellerpox off the board. Felgor don't really have that option. They have to run up and fight. Unlike Chaos Cults, Felgor doesn't have a way to like make Gellerpox worse weapon skill wise. So they just like run in and fight, and I just don't see how they chew through the Nightmare Hulks very well. And now that Warpaint's been nerfed, like you can actually take like the Eye Stingers can actually like stun like key Felgor operatives, and like a stunned Felgor without Warpaint is just like sitting there. So yeah, I just think that like in a straight up head to head matchup, I just think Felgor don't have the tools to properly deal with Gellerpox.
All right.
And yeah, I think Gellerpox is pretty good right now. So
So do we put them
uh,
above Fellgor in S tier?
Ooh, that's a tough call.
I mean, just
I don't
because of
know.
the matchup,
I think that Felgor has a
or do
better
you think
matchup
that
spread.
yeah, Felgor plays the field better?
I would say so, like
Okay.
narrowly. And then Star Striders.
Yeah,
So I mean, A tier is looking pretty big right now, but like
it's too
I
big. We'll
don't
have
think
to
I
thin it
can.
down.
Oh man, but I really like Corsairs in bottom of A tier. It feels right to me. Um, but I think Star Striders, I like them more than Novitiates, barely, and I probably like them more than Hierotek. The question is, I don't know if I like Star Striders more than Mandrakes. That's a really tough call for me.
I don't think you can like him more than Mandrakes.
Well, I know
Mandrakes
I
are
don't.
Mandrakes
I
Mandrakes
don't.
are no, just like me too. Like
Ugh. Mandrakes are scary. Star Striders are also like they're another team that's hard to play. It's like an aura based team, and I just feel like they have really good answers to a lot of things. I think they struggled a little bit into elites and how they might struggle into Nemesis Claw. Um, but they didn't like Vetguard, and Vetguard's been nerfed. I think that they're fine with the other hordes, like relatively speaking, other than Pathfinders. But they didn't like Commandos, and Commandos got nerfed. So maybe that's an acceptable matchup for them now. I'm not entirely sure. Probably still pretty tough, but I have to imagine Star Striders are like kind of comfy against Commandos now. It's maybe not a winning matchup, but it's closer to even. Um, the problem is, I think those other S tier teams just demolish Star Striders.
mm-hmm.
So I like them right where you have them, Ryan.
Okay,
I think.
cool.
Now, do we want to shift anything?
Yes. I mean, Corsairs, by virtue of being at the bottom of A, I want to put them
Yeah,
at top B.
I'm okay with that. We can put Corsairs at the top of B. Um, and we're definitely not missing a team, right? Right? I don't think so. Okay. Um, I
Yeah, these
mean
are all
B tier.
compendium.
Yeah, B tier probably should be the biggest tier, and this looks good to me. D tier. I mean, does maybe Intercession belong in D tier? I don't know.
That's tough for me to put them in D. That's probably just my Space Marine bias speaking. Let's throw them down in there.
Yeah, I just hate them. Like, I just cannot imagine playing Intercession right now.
Um,
Um, man, yeah. I think we can maybe put Kasrkin above Scouts, like in hindsight, but like that's all. That's the most I would bump them. Yeah, everything else looks pretty good to me. Warp Coven moves up to B tier from the gutters. I like Blades of Kane in B tier. I do. Maybe we can bump them to top of C though. I don't know.
I mean, top of C, bottom B. Like, what's the difference? This
I
is
think
a
it just
clean.
looks
This is a
better.
cleaner looking tier list anyway.
Yeah.
Because if we bump Blades of Kane down, I mean, honestly, like, they probably should be in C tier. I don't know. Okay, let's go. Let's kind of go matchup by matchup with Nemesis Claw here,
Okay.
with the teams in A tier. All right. So,
Okay.
how do you feel about them into Hunter Clade?
I think they
Well, because Hunter Clade does have that takeaway obscuring, right?
have takeaway obscuring and like a Rush Stalker can just spike and kill a Nemesis Claw, but it's like they have threat saturation, which is the big thing. Like you can box screen, but they might have set up like three or
Like
four guys that could
like
get a kill
multi
on you.
charges, yeah.
Yeah. So I think it leans towards Hunter Clade if I had to pick one.
Okay. What about Sisters?
Nemesis Claw probably does okay into Sisters, maybe.
Yeah. Sisters
Like, I
are
don't know.
7 wounds anyways, right?
Yeah, so like with your mortal wound thing
I
up, you're
I
charging killing them for the
yeah,
most
you're
part.
charging killing. I love that. I love them into Sisters just because of that. Um so I guess Sisters into Hunter Clade. Just trying to get this trio right here.
I think Hunter Glide smashes Sisters actually. I
Okay.
think it's just like they just beat them. Maybe Sisters just
So
jumps
let's drop
down.
Sisters in between Claw and Cult.
Okay. Yeah, I'm fine with that. I like that.
Okay.
This is maybe the toughest tier list we've had to do in a while. This meta just
Absolutely.
feels wide open.
Yeah. I still can't believe that we still have Commandos up in S tier.
Yeah, I mean, like,
Honestly, like,
who are we kidding, right? Like, come on, this team is still S tier. There's no doubt in my mind.
yo, nobody. I still can't get over the fact that nobody took them to Adepticon. Like, I don't know if we talked about that. No Commandos at in
Well, that
the. Or wait, no, were there?
Liam Garrett, he took them and he just missed out on top 8, and then he smashed his
Oh,
second
okay.
bracket.
Okay.
But he was like the only one that I'm aware of. There might have been another, but he was like the top player that took them. So I
All
don't
right.
know. I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, I think we're good with this.
Yeah, so that is our April 2024 Command Point Kill Team tier list. Thank you guys so much for tuning in and watching. If you are interested in joining our Kill Team community, make sure to check out our Discord server down in the description below. It is the largest Kill Team competitive Discord, just Kill Team Discord period, I think, in the world right now, which is very cool. Tons of Kill Team stuff going on in there, tournaments, competitive talk. What else do we have going on? We've got the Patreon. Shouts out to all of our Patreon supporters for helping support the channel. Shane, what was the last thing that you had uploaded to Patreon?
I've uploaded a few of my TTS games from the most recent CPTS tournament. So if you guys want to see me running Hierotek Circle, granted, the most recent games that I have uploaded are before the balanced data slate. But pretty soon I'm going to be uploading some of my Mandrake games onto there. So if you want to see me play
Nice.
Mandrakes on TTS, go check out our Patreon at the Weird Boy tier.
What else do we got here? If you guys have not already, make sure that you subscribe to the channel so that way you guys don't miss out on any of our upcoming Kill Team content. We're doing it this year, Shane. We're getting to 10,000 subscribers.
Let's do it.
We're doing
We
it.
can do it.
So make sure to hit that subscribe button. Help us get there. We've been doing this for, gosh, like 5 years, I think,
Yeah.
at this point. Yeah. So yeah. But yeah, thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you all again in the next one.